And we're live. Here we go. Look at this, folks. Blake 7 Red Dwarf. Please subscribe and comment. And now we get over to the business of reviewing an episode of Homicide. And I've forgotten what it's called. Is it called Happy to Be Here?
Yes. Happy to be here.
And I have some grabs.
This
now,
is still season 3 episode. Well, it was aired as episode 5. It's actually episode 7 in terms of production order.
What I can do is, before we start this, because Jeff was particularly interested in from the previous episode. I'll just show the screen grab of, and then we can get going. So this is when Meldrick Lewis finds out that this guy Bayliss sort of went on a old school radio. Sort of went to the art gallery with Bayliss. Right, so that's that. Over to you, Jeff.
Emma was the name of the girl.
What did I call her?
You said Bayliss went on a date with Bayliss.
Oh no! I should have said the I should have said the NFJ, as we'll find out from one of the plot points.
Anyway, so that sort of serves as a previously on Homicide bit there.
Yes. Yeah.
What was happening in the last episode, and in this very brief episode summary from TV.com, it says Bayliss continues his relationship with the artist, which is Emma Zool, but she's told her boyfriend about him. When she tells Bayliss that her boyfriend hit her upon hearing the news, actually she didn't say he hit her, shoved her a little. It makes Bayliss so mad he confronts him. Pemberton and Bayliss investigate the death of a woman who's received a delivery of fresh flowers, although she's been dead over 2 weeks. That, ended up being that the husband just didn't want to let go of her because he had counted on her being there every day when he came home from work. Bolander and Munch investigate the shooting of Thorne's source, who's linked to a cocaine cartel, easy for me to say. And then Sam Thorne himself is shot. He tries to get the department to get him a replacement detective for Corsetti, but is told it's not in the budget. Thorne's daughter decides to keep his newspaper going. Bo tries to find out where his wife has moved the family and tries to seek comfort in Rossert, but she basically tells him she can't help him. With Meldrick and Bayliss' disagreement over Emma, Munch is left without partners for the bar. Bayliss goes over the edge when he's later dumped by Emma, and he goes to a convenience store, and he's 11 cents short for buying his beer and cookies, and he pulls his gun on the convenience store clerk and ends up where Pemberton works a deal to get him out of trouble, but he has to work security at the guy's store.
It should have said. It should have just said, "Here, you pay the 11 cents, and I'll give you half the cookies." But there you go.
There's a number of possibilities. Morgan and I always said, you don't need beer with cookies anyway. You need milk, so that's cheaper than beer. So he could have afforded the milk and cookies.
Yeah.
There's any number of ways out of that, but that scene was the source of the Homicide Usenet news group's recurring thing of saying, talking about my 11 cents worth, because the phrase "my 2 cents worth" tends to be what anybody says, but because of that scene, that became a thing on there as saying I'll give you my 11 cents worth about whatever. So,
do the kids know what Usenet is?
Probably kids would not, although most of it is still up, because later on it got taken over by Google Groups, which if you do a search for any of the Usenet Google Group stuff, most of the stuff is still on there. So you can see all those old threads, including the ones I was in.
I mean, I don't think that much has changed. this is 22 years ago. It's not like it's like amazingly different.
In what way?
Well, just like everything, it's not changed that much.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's obviously been technological changes, but beyond that, I mean,
Yeah, but not much.
Yeah, and some. Well, I mean, I think the mobile phone thing is a pretty big change in terms of everybody walking around with those. That and the especially the having internet on them and stuff like that. I think that's a pretty big change. But the basics of police work probably haven't changed a ton, but some things had already changed even before Homicide actually went on the air, because the reason that they had all those squad cars to ride around in, Chevy Cavaliers, was because those were the real ones from the police department. They had just changed over from those to new cars, and so basically the network or the producers, whatever, cut a deal with the police department to get their old cars that were retired and use them for the show. So they were driving around in real, no longer in use Baltimore PD cars. I forgot what they said they changed to after that, but they were no longer using the Cavaliers. So it was sort of like for the real cops watching, they could watch to see if maybe I've driven that car that Pemberton and Bayliss are riding around in at some point.
Now, this is the thumbnail. I had such a big LOL at this.
Yeah, G tells him to fall in love on his own time.
I've got to say that the lighting in this episode was very good for the darker skinned people, because like just the way you can pick out. I mean, this is because it's single camera. You can spend the time picking out someone's face and lighting someone's face in the dark like that.
Well, anyway, to finish up my little summary, about the only other thing. I mean, I'm kind of trying to go with what you were showing on the screen, but you're jumping around a lot. So.
Okay, sorry.
Anyway, that was Sadie's husband, the woman who had been dead for a couple of weeks, that they find somewhere in the aquarium or somewhere. I forgot where they said he went. Okay, that was the only other thing I was going to mention as far as summaries, is that Bo, trying to find his wife, goes to his brother-in-law's place, and that's who that is. And he tells him he doesn't know where she is, and they obviously don't like each other very much. Although he tells Bo that he never hated him. But he also says he's surprised it took Beth so long to leave him. Yeah, so the reason that G was confronting him here was that he took time off of the case to go confront the cop that was the boyfriend of Emma. So G naturally wants him to account for his time, and he says something about he had an errand to run or whatever, and he's not happy to hear that. So.
Right. Also, I have a little treat for the audience, and that is Jeff's sweet box set of. What is it?
You want to do that before you tell me your thoughts on the episode, or?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's what we got here. It was desktop, wasn't it? It says for Jeff. Where's it gone? It's disappeared. Where it? I put it on the. Or did I put it in pictures? Maybe I put it in pictures. Yeah, put it in pictures in a folder called Jeff. Then from, and then I'll move these images over here. Right.
Some riveting video.
Riveting video. It's sweet. This is a sweet box set. There we go, folks. Would you like to own that? An old-fashioned filing cabinet. Oh, you know what would have been cool? If they'd have put like a little bottle of whiskey at the back. Because that's what filing cabinets are used for these days. Put alcohol in.
Not our ones. Our filing cabinets at work. They're used for files.
Oh, you still have them. You still have filing cabinets.
Oh yeah.
And I thought, oh, why isn't the third one in? Oh, because he's watching it.
Yeah. That one's out, and I left out the other one too. That's the bonus disc because when we get to season 4, I think is where it has the first crossover with Law and Order, and it's on that disc. So
we've got Homicide, the complete series. It better have be complete. Right. Nice pattern on here, Jeff, on the mattress type thing.
Thanks. I designed it myself. No, I didn't.
Oh, I made some notes. There was some. I think you said this was written by a new person, and is that correct?
Actually, but yeah, both this episode and the previous one, the story was by Julie Martin, who joined the staff writers for the 3rd season.
Yeah, there seemed to be a difference in style with the humor, that it was coming from a slightly different angle. That
still obviously plenty of input from Tom Fontana and James Yoshimura, who was the head writer and became co-executive producer later on.
And I think
from the what we've watched with BBC shows that they generally refer to them as script editors, but
yeah,
to me, I think head writer sounds more prestigious. So,
or in America, they call them story editor or something.
Yeah, sometimes you'll see somebody with that title, but it seems to be in the BBC stuff that they use script editor as basically the head writer's title, because they don't list anybody else as like the head writer.
Well, it's weird because it's weird. Anyhow, we won't go into the range of how Doctor Who was organised.
Anyway, Julie Martin would write quite a few episodes, but Model Citizen was the first one she was credited on.
So this woman here, I think she might be an NFJ. But she said the line, if you don't want to fight with me, I can't be in this relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes straight to what we talk about in socionics as the beta quadra values of it's all drama in that quadra.
Confuses the hell out of ISFJ Bayliss, who doesn't understand why she would want him to fight with her.
Exactly, because now this is where the quadras work, is in terms of romance styles. Because I'm getting a lot of information on the betas from an INTP female that has sort of like thought about it a lot from a personal experience. I won't mention her name, but like she talks about how they're into power games all the while and drama, and yes, it is totally alien to the alpha quadra, which is the NTPs and SFJs, is they don't like the all that drama.
Yeah, which is confusing when they use those names, because generally when people hear the name alpha, what they think of is more like an STP male type of image.
Oh yeah. I mean, Linda Barron's folks calls it the enhancing intentional style, and she calls the beta one the customizing intentional style. Right, anyhow, we're digressing. I'll tick that bullet point. So do you think she's NFJ? Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, she definitely seemed like she leaned in an NF direction from the stuff she said. But she could also be an SFP that just had interests that sort of leaned in that direction.
I mean, it's sort of. I mean, that is the thing that we get is with NFJs is it tends to be when you hear these things about these female stars. Why did they stay in abusive relationships? And part of it is NFJs can be weird. They can be weird.
But yeah, I do sort of lean towards NF for her because she seemed to be, even though she's caught up in the moment with Bayliss when they hook up, she still seems like she's less about the physical sensation of that as she is all the other sort of feelings that it engenders. So yeah, that was I figured the shot you would get of their legs sticking up out of the coffin.
Yeah. What did I write about this? Opening scene, pre-credits, so-so, and then I put here tiresome Asiatic NFJ Bayliss storyline.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what race she is. I don't know, Korean or Japanese. I don't know. Just Asiatic, right?
Yeah, well, the actress, by the way, folks, is Lauren Tom, who has done quite a bit of things, and including a lot of voiceover work. So if you ever watched Futurama, you may recognize her voice as Amy from Futurama.
This particular actress?
Yeah, Lauren Tom.
No, I didn't think she was. Thought she was okay. I didn't think she was outstanding. Right.
Well, she was certainly believable in the part she was playing to me. You know.
Yeah. Oh yes, this is what I wanted. I don't know if I've mentioned this before. Oh yes, the fact when he visits the paper, and you get a sense of, I put here, interesting take on the SJ temperament, because for G, he's got different, because as we know, folks, SJs are cooperative, but within their culture, but G has sort of three cultures going on. He's black, he's blue, and Italian. So he's part of the police culture. He's part of the black culture, and he's part of the Italian culture. And in a previous episode, he mentioned.
You got a picture of G to put up while you're talking about it?
Oh yes, I have. I'll have to scan forward a bit.
You know, I'm just trying to keep the visuals in line with the audio, you know, since we have pictures to go.
Right, okay. So I'll do the bit where he's got him by the... There we go. There he is, G. And both big guys. I think they're both like 6'4".
Yeah.
There's two. Yes, there's just little bits they put in, like with the little kid, where he asked him, what do you want $500 for? And he was like, to buy a bike, and best mountain bike there is. Just little bits in there like that, and then him saying there's no mountains in Baltimore. And then you had directional touches like slam transitions between. So I think someone slammed the car door. I think when they put Bayliss in a car, and then there was a slam with the phone. I thought that the punishment fit the crime with Bayliss. But what we can do is we can sort of go through it a bit more. Go back in sequence.
I think the newspaper guy Thorne was probably an NF from what they say about him and what you see of him. Just a bit
idealistic. Oh yeah, so I'll talk a bit about the SJ's aspects of this. So there's a previous episode, the one which, remember the one where Pemberton forced a confession out of someone who didn't do it,
right?
And that was, and I think was that called Black and Blue, that episode?
Yes.
And not only is it a great title, but that showed how that G is part of those two cultures, and he said he had to make a decision in the 60s, like to go with the civil rights movement or to go with the police.
Yeah.
And so
and there's a lot of people who sort of had that dichotomy, even if it wasn't just with the police or civil rights, although that certainly was one of them. But you also had, you know, the pro-military or, or the protesters of the war, things like that. You had that conflict, of course, too. So there was a lot of.
It's like, as we know, SJs are integrated. Like this. What did I call it? Socially adjusted. Well, when someone's like really in the culture, did I call it socially adjusted? But it's like what you said. Like when the culture changes, SJs change.
Yeah, they're just the slowest to change usually.
Yeah.
Something has to become really mainstream, and then they'll accept it.
Yeah. And so it's like G is integrated into the police, is integrated in the black culture, and is integrated in the. There's that thing like when he was like in a leather jacket, like when he was in the laundry, and I thought that he could have added a bit like, about.
When you have that strip there, I keep wanting to scroll, and I can't do it because it's on.
Okay, which one do you want? Do you just really?
Well, I'm just saying, if you got all these pictures, Miles, if you're going to talk about a certain character, then you should pull up the picture of that character.
Okay.
Instead, you leave up this one with them doing their nose thing, and it just makes it funny to be talking about whatever else.
Right. Yeah, that was the biggest laugh, I think, so far out of the whole lot. Was that one. Out of all the episodes I've seen so far. Because it was so unexpected.
I don't know, to me, I didn't think it was all that unexpected. I mean, considering in the second episode when Bayliss is complaining about not having a desk, G walks up and throws everything off of a desk across the room. So he's obviously shown that he will do plenty of extreme physical things when he feels them necessary. Got a temper, and he's not afraid of getting in people's faces. So it seemed pretty pretty expected to me.
And that is why, folks, that ESTJs shouldn't be TESI or they should be TESX, because they have a lot of extroverted sensor. Sometimes it comes through. They can be very aggressive, as you say.
And I don't necessarily think being aggressive indicates extroverted sensing, but we can have different takes on that.
Yeah. Right. What have we got here? Oh, and then there was a nice bit with the guy in the barber shop. And okay, well, let's try and go through this in sequence. Right, so we did the opening scene. What did you think of the opening scene?
Not much. It was worth a chuckle.
Yeah.
Especially Pimbleton's little line about "I'll check later."
Yeah. Well, this guy looks like he was in shape. Look at that, playing Bayliss. I think these days they would have had him get out of here and walk around in his underwear, that sort of thing.
Well, NYPD Blue would have done it then.
Was that about Vice, NYPD Blue?
Would have had both of their butts on screen.
Was it about Vice, NYPD
Not primarily,
Blue?
No.
Oh yeah, so there we go with the credits. Oh yes, now this is a sort of cap. A lot of people wear this in England, this flat cap, especially in the north. A flat cap.
Yeah. Whereas in America, it's seen as an old people thing mostly.
And yeah, that's what I mean. Like old people. Oh yeah, old people in England as well. And like I said, he's not had a shave and his hair's messed up and his shirt's open.
Yeah, he's once again out of dress code. He's not wearing his tie.
And then a woman who has gone green after 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Now this scene, there is not directly out of the book, but it's close. There was a scene described in the book where the interaction between Pimbleton and Bayliss about the smell, that came out of the book.
Right.
Where one detective was, it was actually not the other detective, it was the uniform officer that was reacting to how terrible the smell was, and the detective was laughing about how basically he doesn't even notice that anymore or whatever. And in the show, Pembleton said he doesn't let it bother him.
Is that an SP thing?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, kind of just yeah. He's sort of flexing his ego there, like my skill is better than yours at doing this, at blocking out the smell or whatever. So it's less about. It's not really this. That's one of those areas where there's people that don't understand SPs that would say they think it's arrogant, but it isn't actually arrogance. It's ego, but there's a difference between arrogance and ego. It's more about what you can do as opposed to who you are.
Plus, arrogance is when someone's overconfident.
Yeah, or they believe that they're superior because of their ability. But
yeah.
He's not even saying that. He's just saying that. So it's a brag, but it's not, it's not the same thing.
Right, so folks, this is Thorn, the guy behind this paper, The Black Voice.
Mm-hmm.
I've got this woman. No, so I'd take some grabs of that, then Thorn. This is one of the rare examples where someone called Thorn is not a baddie. Because usually that's... The Black Voice. So, Jeff, why the lot of...
And one more, once again, a nod to continuity in Homicide, that the case that's in black right above Thorn on Lewis's board is Spangler, which was the name of the shooting that was solved in the episode Cressetti. The only other case really mentioned in that episode, because when the investigation of Cressetti's death was Bolander's, but Lewis wanted to do it himself. But meanwhile, the case that he took at the beginning of the episode that G told him to work with Cressetti before they found out Cressetti was dead was Spangler. So there it is on the board.
Yeah, nice to be organised. So why has he got a little flag in here?
I don't know. I guess he likes it.
It's just a bit weird.
It might be a pin. I don't know.
But you see, the reason why I'm a little bit biased because I don't like stripes because it hurts my head.
It could have been something his son gave him.
Yeah.
Little trinkets around the desk.
But seriously, any kind of stripes give me a headache.
All right.
Because it's an epilepsy thing. Right. It doesn't give me a fit, but with some people that stripes can give them a fit. Right, it just gives me a headache. Yeah, I just did this... I just think this is good lighter.
You're the one who took a picture of it.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was that. So I don't know, that's a bit small. That's a bit hard to see. What eagle-eyed Jeff talking about it?
Your sound's going all wacky, so I don't know what you said.
Yeah, I think it was because I was zooming in and out like that. I'll try not to zoom in. Yeah, I did that. I wanted to for the lighter. That's well.
So if you said anything about Bolander and Lewis, I couldn't understand it.
No, I just said this is where you said there was a pit, but it was from the previous episode of the reaction on his face.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, and that was the only reaction I saw in this episode.
Yeah, I just got that wrong because I watched the episodes back to back and I forgot some things that were in which one they were in.
Right, so probably about the same height.
Yeah, well, it's like G towers over a lot of the other people, so just as Bayliss is about the only one that's about even with him.
So how old is Secor now, the guy that plays Bayliss?
Well, I don't know off the top of my head, but I can look it up. Riveting once again.
Right. good. This guy.
Kyle Secor is 58.
58? Bloody hell.
Yeah. He was born May 31st, 1957.
Bloody hell. 58.
So he was about 37 when this aired.
Wow. Wow, there might be a lot of young ladies who are watching this and then they find out how old he is now and they go, oh no.
Well, he still looks pretty good for a 58.
Yeah, this was the mountain bike scene.
Yep.
$500 for a bike.
I thought that dude was good. He was pretty convincing in that role, too.
Yeah, that was a tricky role to play because he had to play someone who was quite naive and innocent.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy role to play because, you know, it's one thing to play like a really obvious disability kind of thing, but it might be tougher actually to convey someone that's kind of in between, if you know what I mean.
Yes. Probably someone with an IQ of about 80 or something.
But that's something I think Homicide usually did well, was they cast people that you could definitely believe were the people that they were portraying. So
Right.
with rare exceptions.
Right. So yeah, I mean, and then I just like the fact that just putting it, the little things that they put in the situation, just the context, where he's up for murder and he goes, best mountain bike there is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, since I didn't specifically say that, anyone who hasn't seen this, basically he shot Thorne for $500, and that was what he was going to use the money for, was to buy the mountain bikes.
Yeah, and Thorne was a close friend, or someone that he had known a long time. G.
Yeah.
And of course, he knows her daughter as well.
Yeah, their daughters grew up together, so.
Now, if I were writing this, I might put a little bit of more into G's interaction with that guy, given the relationship.
I think it demonstrated, you know, how he had to balance like everything that was going through his head versus what he needed to do in that scene to get what he needed to know. So, again, not easy to portray, but done well.
Yeah. Good lighting. There was some. Right. Directors love shooting things in a mirror. They love shooting mirrors.
Because you get that cool effect, you know.
Yeah, but it's like we've seen it so many times. But but it's still cool. What we got? And then there was a bit with still got. Oh, we got. Let's see how many more bullet points I've got. I've got that one, and then I've got this one as well. Okay, yes. So we've got this whole sequence with the old till or cash register.
That guy was great too.
Yeah.
Because it must have been tough to do that scene and keep a straight face, but he does it the whole time.
Right, and then we got right, and I think this bit climaxes, and that's where you have the transition between the slam there and then the slamming the phone down.
Yeah.
And then there was the bit there was the punchline of the interaction between Bayliss and Pembleton is, by the way, you owe me 11 cents.
Yeah. And the cop that shows up, the uniform cop, once again, Homicide, people are recurring, so you see them, the same uniforms from time to time. And he's the same guy that back in the White Glove murder case, when he found the woman in the dumpster, is the one that kind of cynically says, better call Homicide, ask for Pembleton. So he knows Pembleton, so that's how Pembleton's able to easily feed him a line about, what really happened is Bayliss just had his gun and the convenience store owner saw it and freaked out, even though that's not really what happened.
And this is a laptop, a 1994 laptop.
Yep. That's where you see the biggest changes, is when they show the technology of stuff. You see.
Yeah, but Jeff, it's like if you compare like the 1980s computers to like the 1960s, like that 20-year difference. We had those enormous changes, and then to me, it's just like, yeah, it's just like the better thing of something we already had.
Yeah.
But as you said, mobile phones, but there's still, it was just that people did have mobile phones. It was just a small number of people.
Yeah, 94, the only people I knew at that point, there was a few people that I knew that had car phones, but, they were pretty much exclusively in the car, and it was like, it was this big thing attached to a box with a cord, and you had to pull up big antenna. So a little different than what we got now.
That is my mobile phone. And it's probably that's my mobile phone, because I don't want a bloody complicated, because I've had a complicated mobile phone. It had insurance on it, and so I wanted a phone that I could drop and not have to have insurance on.
Maybe one of these days I'll show my phone, because it's 2007. It's the only cell phone I've ever had. So
I mean, I just think that people just get too distracted. Facebook's already distracting enough. You don't want to have it on your phone. Right, anyway, I'll get back to the...
Proof positive, I'm not one of those people who has to have the latest gadget on the day that it comes out, because there are people that are... There are kids turning 9 years old this year that are the same age as my phone, so...
Right. There's an old headline, German surrender.
Yeah.
And there we go, we've got Bayliss at the end. The punishment fitting the crime. What have we got here? Oh, yes, I missed a bit out. When Meldrick goes to the barber shop, and then you've got the bloke in the barber shop who is arrested, and he's saying about the barber, Benedict's not finished. I'm all uneven. I can't go downtown all uneven. And then Bonander says, I'll loan you a hat. That's, I'll just go through and let's see the expression on, again, another couple in love.
Yeah, you get the dagger stuck in Bayliss as he gets to watch other people in relationships, and that song played at the end was Hurt by 9 Inch Nails.
So, Jeff, is this Herb Levinson a relative of the other Levinson?
Yes, I believe so. There's several relatives that have roles on the show in various capacities.
Now,
some not in acting roles, like Lee Turgeson, however you pronounce it, the one who played Officer Thorman. His brother Chris, I believe, was the music director on the show, and went on to be also the music director for The Wire. Later on the show, also created by David Simon, same guy who wrote the Homicide book.
So, Jeff, how do you pronounce this word?
I don't know how he pronounces it. I've heard several different ways of pronouncing that, including guff or goff.
Yeah, in England it's Goth.
Yeah. But it also could be pronounced like Gao or something like that. So there's several different ways it could be pronounced. So I don't know how he pronounces it, because other than playing Colonel Granger on Homicide, I don't recall hearing of that guy before. So
Right, so I'll just show the audience my bullet points. There we go. Right. And the line has gone through. They are done. Right.
So how do you rate this episode?
Well, it wasn't dark and depressing. It had some very funny moments in it. Nice little details. Right, if I start with 10 and start knocking points off, right? I think I might knock a point off for the opening scene. Knock another point off for the boat. I'll make that about 2. I think I might knock it down to about a 7.
I would also give it a 7. I had the uncomfortable Bayliss confronting the cop scene. You know, that kind of didn't do much for me. You know, it's somewhat realistic, but it's still I didn't care for it much. And basically, his whole relationship with Emma, you know, it seemed like they kind of put in the stuff with her, mainly of what we were talking about earlier at the beginning of the season, where they were trying to put more like sex stuff in the show, and they thought they maybe be a little shocking with that plot line or something. So it provided some funny moments, but overall there wasn't a whole lot to it. So, but there's plenty of other good stuff. I thought the other plot line about Thorne was better overall.
Oh yeah,
and you know, but the scene at the end with Bayliss in the convenience store and all that was pretty funny, pretty well done. And
yeah. I remember thinking, has Bayliss lost his mind?
Yeah, well, he has his moments where he kind of loses it. You know, he already had done that a few times, just not quite to that extent.
Which type do you think Bayliss is? ISTJ?
I think ISFJ. I
Right.
initially had thought ISTJ when I was first rewatching the show at the very beginning, the first 3 episodes, because he's depicted as being, you know, kind of very following by the book and following the steps. But you keep on seeing from Bayliss that he has these kind of moral, you know, indignancy moments or whatever you want to call it, but unlike Pembleton's moments like that, they don't come off as much like he's saying, you know, this is my personal experience with it. It's more, he's always making these moral judgments about people. You know, people shouldn't do this, they shouldn't do that. Just blanket statements like this is perversion and this is that and that. You know, so he's got this. That's why I you know, think he's probably an ISFJ. That's what, you know. And of course, I've seen it through the whole series, so there's plenty of opportunity later in the show for him to kind of confirm that, in my opinion. So,
Do you think SI Doms can lose their cool every now and then?
oh yeah, I work with the ISFJ who has quite a short temper.
See,
and
that's
that does too.
Yeah, that's the thing in socionics, that it's where it's they can go like that. Right. It's just that my mother's slightly different because she's an Enneagram 9, and so she's a peacemaker. Right.
Yeah, I would say if I had to take a wild guess on the Enneagram for Bayliss, I would say he's probably a type 6.
Yeah. Interesting. It's hard for me to understand the type 6.
But
That's
then
one of those
I might
tricky
have
ones.
I might have sort of a bias in that it seems like most Guardians come off that way to me from most of the type 6 descriptions, because that the stuff about security seeking kind of tends to cross over there, and
Yeah.
tend to be kind of defined by their insecurities and their fears.
Right. Yet again, we have an example of Jess saying, "Oh, I'm not interested in something," and then coming up with a lot of knowledge on it. So, I will. So it's goodbye from me.
All right. Well, join us next time, everybody, for the next Homicide episode, which is called All Through the House. It's a Christmas episode, so put on your best Christmas attire for next time, and we'll talk about that one. Bye bye.